please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, let's go straight to the top story this evening. The Indian economy is set for a slowdown in FY18. The GVA, that is the gross value added, is set to grow at just 6.1%. That is well below what the street was expecting. In fact, if you remember, the Reserve Bank's own estimate of the GVA was 6.7%. Now, this will be the slowest rate of growth in the last 4 financial years if one goes by the advance estimates put out by the Central Statistical Organization. The GDP is set to grow at 6.5%. That's higher than the GVA, but even this is the slowest rate of growth since FY14, when the UPA government was in its last year of power. Now, agriculture and manufacturing, the two main culprits. Agri growth is estimated to slow down to just over 2% from nearly 5% growth in FY17. Manufacturing is also likely to see a sharp drop. It grew at a robust 8% rate last year, and this financial year it could grow by just 4.6%. But there is a silver lining. Gross fixed capital formation, which is an indicator of investments by companies for capacity expansion, could see a sharp revival. For FY18, the estimate of growth is at 4.5%, which is much higher than 2.4% in the last financial year. Well, let's hear out the Chief Statistician, T.C. Anant, on the various assumptions that have gone into computing this data.
Broadly speaking, implicitly, there is an assumption in this whole exercise, and that was stated last year as well, because at this stage, for both revenue collections and government expenditure, the only control variable which we have is budget, because these are policy choices of the government to some extent. We are implicitly, therefore, assuming in this exercise that budgetary targets will be met.
Well, that's the CSO, and Latha joins us now with her take. So, Latha, in terms of the GDP number, broadly in line with expectations and estimates, it's the disappointment on the GVA front that one has to factor in. But more importantly, I mean, this is FY18. What are we going to take away from this?
Well, first of all, the CSO, its usual numbers are lagged numbers. They give you they count the growth the previous year. This is the only number where they estimate. And this particular year, they are at sea because you're extrapolating from the first half to the second half. Usually, when they extrapolate, they use sales tax estimates. If sales tax grew so much in the first half, it would grow so much in the second half. So, many of these numbers are not there. So extrapolation is usually difficult for the CSO. It is not its core job. It is particularly difficult in a year of disruption, a first half that followed demonetization, that was in the throes of GST changes. You can't really extrapolate to the second quarter what happened in the first quarter, even with seasonal adjustments. So not very reliable number. The second key takeaway is that the CSO, as you heard the chief statistician say, assumes that the fiscal deficit will be met. It's quite possible it won't be met. The government will spend a little more, because the number which is actually fallen is this public administration. The CSO has taken it at 9.4%. Last year it was 11.3%. They're assuming only 9.4% because they expect that the government will cut expenses in the fourth quarter to meet fiscal deficit targets. If it doesn't, then it's quite possible that that number will be higher, and therefore the whole GVA number will be higher. A third takeaway for me is that actually the November-December numbers were very good. PMI was 54.7 in December, highest in 5 years. Truck sales were, mind-bogglingly high. So, given all this, it's possible that the GVA, and even according to experts we spoke, is more likely to be higher than what the CSO is estimating, probably 6.3 or 6.4, closer to the GDP number of 6.5. A fourth takeaway, and this is negative for me, export growth is unchanged at 4.5. Last year 4.5, current year 4.5. But look at imports. Last year was, I think, 2% or thereabouts, 2.3. This year imports is 10%. Why? Because the dollar is cheap. That is what everybody will conclude, that the dollar strength is leading to more import substituting domestic usage. Import substitution, not a very good thing. And finally, for me, a very important takeaway is that look at a per capita GDP. It is 1,24,000 or thereabouts. You know what that means? We have joined the $2,000 club in terms of per capita. Feels good.
Yes, it certainly does feel good. Lata, thanks very much for taking us through the big takeaways from the data that's been put out by the CSO, the advanced estimates for the GDP. But let's talk about the other big stories tonight, and this is more macro news. Reports suggest that the Reserve Bank of India has decided to give extra dividend to the government this fiscal. Remember, the government had sought an additional 13,000 crore rupees. It's still not clear, by the way, how much the Reserve Bank will eventually pay the government. The central bank has already paid 30,000 crore rupees, but even then, there could be a minor fiscal slippage, and here's why. Because the budget had estimated a GDP of 168 lakh crores and arrived at a fiscal deficit estimate of 3.2%. But the CSO is now predicting a GDP of 164 lakh crores, and this could take the fiscal deficit to about 3.3%. So that's the arithmetic as far as the fiscal deficit is concerned. But for the markets, a record-shattering day on the Lal Street. The Nifty breaching its previous high, backed by 0.5% gains, ending at 10,559. The Sensex also ended 1% in the green after reports of additional dividend from the Reserve Bank. The mid-cap outperformance continued today. The index also topped its earlier high to end just shy of 21,500. Banks also saw an up move of about 0.5% in trade. Nigel standing by to wrap up today's trading action. So, Nigel, the bulls in form.
Well, it was a perfect day for the bulls. Let's just put it at that. If you bought at any point of time trade the Nifty, you would be making money. If you just take a look at the intraday graph, it looked good. The Nifty made yet another record high, and we ended virtually at the high point of the day. 10,550 on a closing basis. That was conquered as well. So things on the whole looked good. And you were wondering, well, some people are on vacation, some institutions are not there. Today, the volumes were pretty much as good as ever, really. The cash market volumes did spike up as well. The Nifty, remember, in today's trading session, it made a record high, and the Nifty Bank participated as well. If you just take a look at the participation, the Nifty Bank, it matched the Nifty step for step. So that was pretty good news as well. The breadth of the market did look quite good. So the mid-cap and the small-cap space, they continue to outperform the Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank. So on all fronts, it was a good day for the bulls. Looking at the big gainers then, Yes Bank did quite well. You had Bajaj Finance as well, that was among the gainers. But the reason the Nifty moves higher is one of those big boys do well. And HDFC, that was one of the biggest contributors on the upside, closer to 9 to 10 points of the 50-point gain that we saw today was primarily because of HDFC. But plenty of gainers. Bharti Airtel did well, Adani Ports as well did quite well, and even the pharma stocks did participate. So Dr. Reddy's as well as Lupin. So it was across really the board that we did see buying in today's trading session. But if you thought the Nifty did well, just take a look at some of the stocks from the broader markets. Idea Cellular, after that CLSA report, they have upgraded the stock. That stock was up close to around 10%. And Equitas, very, very high volumes. The FI window was quite active as well. So we'll be watching out what exactly happened on that front. That stock was up close to around 7%. And Just dialing the right numbers, the stock did end higher. But in fact, it was the end of the week, and it was clearly some of these alcohol stocks that did very, very well. United Spirits and United Breweries, cheers all the way. Those stocks, in fact, ended with gains of around 6 to around 7%. And at the end of the week, really some of those tea stocks didn't do too well. So the screen really is telling you the picture of trade. Well, the story of the week really was that the Nifty started off slower, but we managed to end at record highs. The Nifty Bank was playing catch-up. But the real money was made in the broader markets, as that final plate will tell you. The mid-cap and the small-cap space made you plenty of money. Back to you.
All right, Nigel, thanks very much for wrapping up the market action today and for the week. Have a great weekend. Well, there was cheer on Mint Street as well. The rupee soaring, hitting a fresh 29-month high. This is not good news, by the way, for the government at all. The Indian currency closing at 63.37 to the dollar. That's higher compared to Thursday's closing of 63.40. 14 days of sitting, 61 and 41 hours of functioning for the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha respectively, and 12 bills have been passed. This is in a snapshot, the winter session of Parliament 2017. Which is drawn to a close today. It wasn't a smooth start for the government, though. The first few sittings were marred by repeated disruptions from Congress MPs who sought Prime Minister Modi's apology for his comments against former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. But the BJP and the Congress later managed to broker peace on the issue, and the last few days of Parliament saw a relatively smooth sailing. Rituparna Bhuyan joins us now with more. Ritu, take us to the key highlights of the winter session that's drawn to a close today.
As far as productivity is concerned, Lok Sabha recorded a productivity of 91.58%, which according to the government is one of the highest for the winter session. But for Rajya Sabha, because of disruptions, the productivity was much lower at the 56.3% according to the government. Now, as you said, around 12 bills were passed by both houses of the parliament, but Lok Sabha passed critical bills like, the instant triple talaq bill, the GST compensation to states bill, the Central Road Fund amendment. But none of these three bills could make it to Rajya Sabha. As far as both the houses are concerned, it passed important bills like the IBC amendment bill, the companies amendment bill, as well as the appropriation bill, which dealt with the recap of banks. We also got to know about the budget session as well. According to the government, it's starting on 29th of January. The budget will be presented on 1st of February. This first half of the budget session will be between 29th January and 9th February, while the last part, that is the second part of the budget session, will be between 5th of March and April 6th. With that, it's back to you.
All right, Ritu, appreciate you joining us. That was the winter session of Parliament, and all eyes now on the budget session. Remember, 1st of February is when the union budget, along with the railway budget, will be presented. Now, a day after the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture slammed airlines for overpricing tickets, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Jayant Sinha, has weighed in on those proposals. Sinha said that only about 1% of total air tickets sold are overpriced. He, however, assured that the government will take action if airlines were found to have resorted to overpricing, but basically the Minister of State for Civil Aviation standing by the airlines saying that there is no overpricing by Indian carriers.
इस विषय पे काफ़ी जांच हुई है और हम लोगों ने बहुत अध्ययन किया है कि जो एयरलाइन प्राइसिंग होती है वो किस प्रकार से हो रही है और इसमें 3 मुद्दे हैं जिसमें सब लोगों को ध्यान रखना चाहिए। पहली बात तो ये है कि जिस प्रकार से हमारे देश में डायनामिक प्राइसिंग एयरलाइंस की होती है वो पूरे विश्व भर में होती है। ग्लोबल जो प्रैक्टिसेस हैं वो इसी प्रकार के हैं और हमें कहीं ऐसा नहीं नज़र आया है कि हमारे एयरलाइंस जो हैं वो कुछ हट के कर रही हैं। जो भी ग्लोबल प्रैक्टिसेस हैं वो ग्लोबल
उन्होंने खास मिसाल दिया है कि एटीएफ की कीमतें 50% तक कम हो जाती हैं, फिर भी कीमतें एयरफेयर को लोग कम नहीं करते, जबकि बढ़ती है कीमतों तो एयरफेयर बढ़ा देते हैं।
मैं पहले अपनी बात समाप्त कर लूँ। जैसे मैंने कहा कि जो ग्लोबल जो स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं उसी के आधार पे हो रहा है। दूसरा, अगर आप देखें कि जो प्राइसेस जो बढ़ी हुई रहती हैं वो ऐसे कितनी प्राइसेस हैं, हमें ऐसी बहुत कम मिली हैं, 1% से कम ऐसी प्राइसेस हैं जो एवरेज से बहुत ज़्यादा होती हैं, तो इसलिए कोई बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा ये नहीं है। और तीसरी बात ये है कि हमारे पास कई सारी एजेंसीज़ हैं, डीजीसी है, कॉम्पिटिशन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया है। अगर किसी को भी लग रहा है कि ये अवैध तरीके से किया जा रहा है या प्रेडेटरी तरीके से किया जा रहा है तो वो अपनी शिकायत वहाँ दर्ज करें और ज़रूर उस पर कार्रवाई होगी। तो इस कारण जो भी कुछ हम लोगों को करना चाहिए पैसेंजर्स को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए हम लोग कर रहे हैं।
Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Jayant Sinha, speaking there. Now, Patanjali Ayurveda is eyeing a massive online push. The FMCG giant wants to see a 10-fold growth in its online sales, and for this purpose, it will be tying up with up to 8 big e-commerce players. Priya joins us with more. Priya, who are these e-commerce retailers that Patanjali wants to tie up with?
Well, that's right. Patanjali Ayurveda is planning a mega online push, and in order to grow its online business significantly, we understand that the company is in talks to tie up with big e-commerce players. Now, there are about 7 to 8 players that we understand that the company is looking to tie up with, and these include the likes of Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Big Basket, and many more players. This would essentially mean that Patanjali will officially be supplying their products directly to several of these websites. Now, what will this mean for Patanjali Ayurveda? This will help the company improve its distribution as well as reach as far as Patanjali products are concerned. It will also help grow its e-commerce business. Do remember that in December the company clocked sales of about 11 crore rupees, and it will perhaps help the company expand its business 10-fold on a month-on-month basis is what we are given to understand. As far as other companies are concerned, e-commerce companies will be able to buy products directly from Patanjali. It will also help improve margins because companies would be sourcing products directly from Patanjali. Now, we also do understand that websites would perhaps have exclusive launches as well as offers with regards to Patanjali products, but there will be no discounting, as what is Patanjali's philosophy is what we are given to understand. On 16th of January, we understand there will be a big event where several players will be attending, and tie-ups will perhaps be announced on that day. In fact, we did reach out to all the companies involved. Patanjali Ayurved confirmed plans to tie up with e-commerce websites to improve the company's reach as well as distribution. Big Basket said that they are already buying from Patanjali directly and will continue to do so. Snapdeal told us that it works with leading FMCG companies to provide an efficient platform to link sellers as well as consumers.
Priya, many thanks for joining us. Now, thousands of government buses in Tamil Nadu were off the road today as 12 transport unions went on an indefinite strike, demanding a pay hike. The decision to go on strike comes after unions' talks with the State Transport Minister failed to break the deadlock. Jude Sanith, who's been tracking that, joins us now with the details. Jude, what is the latest?
24 hours since that strike was first called by Tamil Nadu transportation employees. Little progress really on the ground as far as the resolution is concerned. In fact, I'm at the T Nagar bus stand, which, as you can see in my background, continues to witness commuters who, of course, are stranded by way of that strike itself. The latest that we can get from you is that the Tamil Nadu Transportation Department has come out, has said that it's conducted 23 meetings so far with employees, but little or no avail, given the fact that most of these employees haven't quite turned up for work. 15,000 buses out of a total fleet strength of 22,500 are off the roads, even as 1.4 lakh employees of the Transport Department haven't turned up for work, putting 2 crore commuters really at grave inconvenience. Remember, 12 to 13 unions really have called for the strike and continue to strike, despite the fact that the Madras High Court has come about, threatened them with termination and contempt of court should the strike continue. But what I can bring you from the ground itself, especially given my sources in the Transportation Department are telling me, is the fact that for the moment, for the night at least, the strike is likely to continue. Back to you in the studio.
Jude, appreciate you joining us with the latest on the Tamil Nadu bus strike. Here's a big global story of the day. Donald Trump's lawyers have threatened to sue his former aide, Steve Bannon. This comes after Bannon described meetings between Trump's son and son-in-law with Russian representatives, and I quote, as treacherous, unpatriotic. In a new tell-all book by Martin Wolf about Trump's White House, Trump is now fighting back with scathing criticism of Steve Bannon, saying he's lost his mind. Here's a special report by NBC News' Christian Walker.
Tonight, President Trump publicly holding his fire amid a mounting feud with his former top aide, Steve Bannon.
I don't know, he called me a great man last night, so, you know, he obviously changed his tune pretty quick. I don't talk to him. That's just a misnomer.
Bannon playing cleanup on his radio show.
The President of the United States is a great man. You know, I support him day in and day out.
But behind the scenes, the president still fuming, according to several aides, after Bannon questioned the president's grasp of policy in the new book, Fire and Fury, and even accused Mr. Trump's son and son-in-law of treason for meeting with a Russian lawyer during the campaign. On Wednesday, the president excoriated Bannon, saying he'd lost his mind. Now the president's legal team is threatening to sue Bannon, the book's author, and the publisher, the White House lashing out.
There are numerous mistakes, but I'm not going to waste my time or the country's time going page by page talking about a book that's complete fantasy and just full of tabloid gossip.
But tonight, new shockwaves after author Michael Wolff raised questions about the president's mental fitness in an article in The Hollywood Reporter, writing the president repeats himself. Everybody was painfully aware of the increasing pace of his repetitions. The White House defiant.
It's disgraceful and laughable. If he was unfit, he probably wouldn't be sitting there and wouldn't have defeated the most qualified group of candidates the Republican Party has ever seen.
And tonight, growing questions about whether Steve Bannon is losing his influence as a number of Republicans are siding with Mr. Trump. The White House asked if Bannon should be fired, from conservative media outlet Breitbart News.
Something they should look at and consider.